Hey guys, and welcome back to another one of my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6 videos, and today we're going to be talking my review of the 9th episode of the 6th season, otherwise titled Collision Course Part 2. Okay, so this episode was supposed to be titled The Baker. That was the original title, the leaked title. We do understand now why it was supposed to be titled so. Last week I did believe the possibility over there was that we were going to see some origin story for Jaco. Like we're going to understand what went down with Jaco, his family, the Baker, on his planet. But the reason though does stay the same. I did expect he would die on this week's episode. I did expect that they would show us set flashbacks in order for us to kind of sympathize with the guy. They want to humanize him in such a way that we end up sympathizing with the guy right before he dies on this week's episode. And that's exactly what happened. Jaco did end up dead. We ended up sympathizing with the guy. We ended up liking the guy. I mean, I've been liking the character. I've been liking the acting for the character for the past couple of episodes, but this week it even got better. There were a lot of one-liners for Jaco and other characters, but the ones that were assigned to Jaco were just great. I think my favorite part with Jaco, my favorite one-liner, was the moment that he helps with the escape from the lazy comet. Simmons goes, "I like you," and he goes, "That's because I'm likable." But alright, I'm usually biased towards episodes that have Fitz and Simmons as the focus. I mean, those episodes are usually my favorites, but this one ended up being my favorite this season. One of my favorites of all time as well. Think about it this way, a lot went down on this episode. We're 9 episodes into the season. Jaco only started appearing at the beginning of the season. He's only appeared for some of the 9 episodes, not all of them, because some of the episodes were space-centric. Yet you've got a series that managed to build an entire character, make you like that character with a few words, not too much, and make sure as well you kind of feel the impact of his death by the end of this week's episode. That is pretty solid. That's pretty good writing, by the way. But let's move on and away from Jaco for the time being. Let's start with breaking down the rest of the events of the episode. The episode starts with 6 minutes to impact. We're on board of the Zephyr. We're watching things from the perspective of Mac, Yoyo, and Daviiz. The next thing we see is the continuation of the final scenes of last week's episode. Sarge made it to the Zephyr. He's with Jaco and Pax. He's got a plan. Snowflake couldn't make it out in time. That's what Sarge tells Jaco. He doesn't tell him that he left her behind. He's lying to him. Sarge is so determined to defeat Izel. He's so determined to do his own thing, seek his own revenge, that he's lying to his team. He doesn't care at this point about his team. All he cares about is Izel. There's the talk about getting themselves a new spaceship. That's talk about the Zephyr, because we know the Zephyr as of the end of Season 5 and as evident by the events of this season, the beginning of this season, the Zephyr is also alternating as a spaceship. But on board of the lazy comet though, Simmons realizes the crew is infected with something. She wants to try and treat them, find out the cause of all of this. She doesn't realize it's Izel at first, but then moments later Izel is walking behind them. She's walking towards Fitz and Simmons Simmons realizes, okay, I know the reason. Now you remember I talked about theories about Izel. Is she working alone? Is she working with someone else? Is she the main villain, or is she reporting to someone else? The thing about Izel over here is she does seem to be the creator herself. I mean, a lot of things at the moment do prove that she's not reporting to no one. If she's working with someone, they're pretty much partners or underlings, but she's definitely the creator. She seems to be creating the Shrikes. She seems to be using them to gain control of all of these people. And at the same time, she seems to be telepathically communicating with all the Shrikes back on Earth. So she's most definitely the one in control over here. Now her statements as well do prove that. Stuff like, I gave them a higher purpose. The fact that Sarge is after her and only her, doesn't think there's anyone behind her, that does prove she is in control as well. But moving on to Sarge's rig though, I do love how Snowflake's crazy got a little bit higher with her consciousness melting into the cosmos statements and her merging into the infinite. Love the relationship between her and Deke. That's so funny throughout last week's episode and this week's episode. The character of Snowflake, even though partially interesting, not fully interesting so far, kind of finally got a purpose. But it's an atom bomb. That's the discovery made by Daisy based on the description of none other than Snowflake. Deke tries to defuse said bomb. He kind of fails. He kind of gives up. He thinks he's about to die when Daisy steps in. Now, the way she contains the explosion with the atom bomb, the way she gains control over it, kind of reminds us of Scarlet Witch at the very beginning, early on, in the events of Captain America Civil War. It was most definitely as well a pretty badass moment for Daisy. Now, I do love the change to Snowflake, right before the impact. I do love how at the beginning she's like going all crazy, the usual crazy for Snowflake, butterfly crazy. but then she goes from melting into the cosmos and her merging into the infinite to no, I'm not fine, I do not want to die. That's pretty much the message that she's delivering over there. Even Snowflake, the one that talks about, butterflies, death and all of that, the one that seems to accept death so badly at the beginning of the episode, she starts freaking out when she thinks the end is that close. But one of my favorite moments in terms of the funny though is the moment that, they realize they're gonna live, that this is not the end, and Deke and Snowflake are all over one another. The way that May and Daisy are just so disgusted by what's going on over there, that's quite funny. But jumping back to the Zephyr though, upon orders from Sarge, Matt gives the order to Daviiz to turn around to save his agents. I guess for one thing, and at that moment he knew that he couldn't do much for the team on the ground, the team in the rig. So he was being realistic, he was being pragmatic, he knew that they are gonna sort it out on their own. I guess he trusted them as well. But I also guess he feared for everyone on board of the Zephyr, including Yoyo, which is the part about the talk about compromise that he did have with Keller early on in the events of the season. I think it was episode 4. I think Mac more or less were talking about the reasons that he distanced himself from Yoyo. I think that's the exact thing that he does say at the end of the episode. No matter how much I tried to take you off my mind, I couldn't do that. You're always there, so I couldn't figure it out anyway. But when it comes to Sarge though and his team, we were talking about that a couple of episodes ago. Does he care about his team? Does he not care about his team? I think Sarge cares about his team, but he does care about his revenge more. You kind of tend to sympathize with this guy a little bit by the end of the episode because Sarge does reveal a lot about himself, and Izel does reveal a lot about him as well. We're going to talk about the details of that, what that means on my theory video, but I'm going to give a hint over here. Now there's the part with Fitz and Simmons making contact with the Zephyr. They're talking to Daviiz, they're giving him a distress signal, and at the same time, Daviiz is giving a similar distress signal. But the next thing, Sarge realizes they are on board of the Lazy Comet, they are with Izel, and he does make contact with Izel. They start talking, there's that entire conversation, a lot of good one-liners with Izel, a lot of good one-liners that kind of give us a hint about Sarge as well. So you finally remember my name, come for me, and I'll help you remember yours. We've also got seems you're still not sure what to call yourself, and then we've got which skin are you saving now? Just the one that you're wearing, I hope. But finally there was the big shocker. It's not that I took your memory, Sarge, it's that you never had any to begin with. You do need to remember here what we talked about at the beginning of the season and before the start of the season, the butterfly theory. Now I'm not saying that the butterfly theory does apply, but I believe that was partially an inspiration. Even after the time that we got to realize that Snowflake is not based off of Butterfly out of the comics, even though her name originally when being cast was Butterfly, I did state that all the talk about butterflies is kind of a hint, a possible hint, and this seems to be it because Butterfly in the comics, the mutant butterfly, does resurrect people, has that ability, but without neither memories though, nor empathy. So the thing over here is it's all about the memories that Sarge is missing, or the memories that did not exist to start with. That was basically denying the statement that Sarge made. You took my family, you took the woman I love, and then you went ahead and took away my memories of all of these people. Now, the thing about all of this is that Sarge is most probably Coulson. I mean, the body of Coulson, the persona of Sarge. I think to a great extent that whoever brought him back to life in order to defeat Izel relied heavily on his memories of May and the team. May is the woman that he loved, and the team is the family that he lost. He would not remember faces, he would not remember details, but he would remember there was a woman, there's a residual memory somewhere over there. He would remember there was a family, there's another residual memory somewhere over there. Simply put, that's why he does not know what Coulson means, when Jaco asked him on the second episode of the season, yet it did ring a bell. But let us though go through the rest of this episode until we get to other big moments on the episode. Deke comes close to meeting the fate of Keller, a shrike going through his mouth. May stops it with a dagger and goes, this close to shutting you up. That was most definitely one of the funnier moments of this episode. But we've got Jaco and Yoyo. Jaco is truly a nice guy as I expected. The baker bit comes in play again as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Yoyo does mention it. Remember, this episode was indeed titled The Baker. So we're hitting on his motivation, he wants to kill this beast that took his family, took everything away from him. But it's over, Sarge. You can tell that Jaco was gonna turn before the end of the episode. You can tell that early on, when Sarge shot Pax in the head. When Sarge started sounding like he's under the full control of revenge, like, no, we're not gonna go back and get Snowflake, we're not gonna fill up the ranks, we're just gonna follow Izel and try to kill her. But regardless of all of that though, the team in the truck or the rig did not need saving because the team over there had Daisy, and Daisy did manage to stop all the Shrikes. She managed to quake them into dust, which kind of made me think right away of Infinity War. Like, okay, we're not tying in with Infinity War, we're not tying in with Endgame, we're probably happening in a different timeline at this moment, but in the end we're gonna give you some kind of parallel, some kind of Easter egg to Infinity War. But who needs the Infinity Stones when you've got Daisy? Okay, that was a joke. I know some people are gonna jump in the comments and be like, hey, the Infinity Stones work on a bigger scale. Daisy does not have the ability to eliminate half of the population of the universe. Well, in case you are tempted to make that comment, I know that, you know that, there are birds on trees next to the IMAX where I watched both Infinity War and Avengers Endgame that do know that. But moving on though, we've got the entire team reuniting. My favorite part was the Fitz, Simmons and Deke reunion. You know, Bobo, so happy to see you. Jaco going with the bomb after Izel tells Sarge I completed the mission. I mean, Jaco made all the right choices on this episode, but at the same time, there's still a little bit of loyalty to Sarge. Not necessarily in every way, but in some ways, like I'm still on that mission. I'm not gonna kill people to achieve my objective, but I'm gonna get our revenge. I'm gonna stop that woman. But don't worry, I will be a butterfly. That's his response to Snow when she tells him not to do it. I mean, this is one more one-liner that makes you like Jaco even more, and just moments before his death, they're just trying repeatedly to make sure that, yeah, this character is gonna die, yeah, this character has been introduced as one of the bad guys at the beginning of the season, but you're gonna sympathize with him. No matter what, you're gonna end up sympathizing with him. But moving on towards the end of the episode, we've got the Lighthouse reunion party, we've got Mac and Yoyo ending up back together, we've got the conversation between May and Yoyo before that. You know, I should have killed him the moment that I saw him. That's pretty much establishing a pattern before May goes in and shoots Sarge at the end of the episode on the Stinger. But we've got a reference to the same fiery planet that Daisy has been to that she spoke of on the 3rd episode of the season, and that's pretty much when she tells Meg that she saw an ocean of lava in deep space. I think that's a reference to Muspelheim. I think that was the same reference on the 3rd episode of the season as well. But circling back to May, I do know that, you know, the moment that she tells Yoyo that, she does seem to, she no longer believes that Sarge could be Coulson, that he's definitely not Coulson, even though I'm sure that's a moment of anger, even though I'm sure she'll be back on that one, even though I'm sure she's gonna take the death of Sarge pretty hard on next week's episode. But we've got a conversation between Piper and Daviiz. You nearly escaped death again. That's a reference to him surviving Ada at the end of season 4 with just a scar to show for it. The story he kept telling everyone on season 5, except for us, the audience. But once again though, the writers are sending us a message. Fitz and Deke, you being here proves my multiverse theory was right. They're trying to explain it through these little words there. And the fact that Fitz does not object, the fact that he lets it go, and we know Fitz when it comes to these kind of things, does mean that the series is kind of sending us a message. Yes, it is the multiverse theory at play here. But yeah though, love how the original score for the series was used on that scene close to the end of that scene because it kind of signals that this is the end of the season, even though it isn't. But like these people think it's all good, it's all fine, everything is done, Sarge is in prison, Izel is dead, it's perfect, even though Jaco died for nothing. It's not really perfect because Izel is still there and she's still a threat. But finally though, speaking of the Stinger, I believe that May was possessed by Izel. It's kind of pretty clear as well from the trailer of next week's episode. The fact that Sarge tells her when she walks in that she's not much of a talker, that's the opposite of what he told Deke. That's why he was surprised that Deke was talking when he thought he was possessed by a Shrike, and people possessed by Shrikes do not talk at all. So pretty much he knew and right away that this was someone possessed by Izel, or one of the Shrikes of Izel. But the very final thing about all of this is a reference to the many times that May was either replaced or in this case possessed by someone else. So I'm pretty much talking stuff like Agent 33, I'm pretty much talking stuff like LMDs on Season 4. Remember, May was the first fallen agent and the first one to be replaced by an LMD within S.H.I.E.L.D. But having discussed the Stinger, my work here is done, so let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this week's episode. Let me know what you think is going to happen on next week's episode. Do you think this is the end for Sarge, or do you think that we're going to be seeing Sarge again? Do you think we're going to be seeing him in another body, or do you think we're going to be seeing him in the body of Coulson? I don't think this is the end for Clark Gregg anyway. I know he's going to be on season 7, and I hope he's going to be an integral part of the rest of this season in one way or the other. But you can also let me know if you did like this video by dropping it a much appreciated like, subscribing to this channel, make sure while you're at it to enable notifications in order to get updates whenever I upload a new video, publish a new community post, or start a new live stream. But until the next time that you tune in for another one of my videos, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in to this review video and have a great day.